Really about that dividend. Really about that major move. Ain't think about no extra friends. We want that black talk. And you out in white talk. Hip hop, push it talk. Jack it like the beanstalk. Open up, let us in. Really about that dividend. Really about that major move. Ain't think about no extra friends.
Super Heru family, I am your host, Aseer the Duke of Tears, along with my co-host from Leading Empress of 10,000 Years, my brother Saga Assad, holding us down, as well as Little More, who thank God's about to go to bed. I hope everybody's been well, as we're on our Friday night, every other week, Steve. I hope everybody has been good. God forbid anybody who lost somebody, or God forbid anybody who lost anybody within the week. We send our condolences, and as well as those people, those new babies are being born. Case in point, the Queen, Selena, was there and able to sit and be privy and help as a doula with the birth of a beautiful family that we had the honor, of marrying a couple months ago. So now they're having a second seed, and he is here, so give thanks and praise to the Creator. And all of the new babies, right? And all the new babies, whether they be physical babies or even magical ones, meaning that you can, now is the time where we can sort of invoke or evoke the type of magical child or whatever that we would want. Babies that incarnate always don't have to be in a physical sense. They can also be projects, they can be ideas, they can be things that you've been looking forward to for a long time actually starting to come to fruition. So I know a lot of us have instances and situations like that we're looking forward to. So I definitely want to give thanks and praise and peace to those who are looking forward to that. Those projects or those things that you have been birthing and bringing into fruition. We definitely want to say keep up the good work and continue to do you. And it's a slippery slope getting to the top, but once you're there, things get kind of stable. So, we also want to build on, as we always do, some of the current events, things that are going on that people may have questions about, but may not understand where they come from. But even in that, know that all things pertaining to knowledge and all things that are hidden always come to the light. And what don't come out in the wash, come out in the rinse. So case in point, the United States is going through a series of war games now in the called East, so much so that they are engaging in what they call soft war tactics with the Iranian Navy, as well as members of the, members of the Russian fleet that happens to be out there as well. You know what I mean? We got to do the knowledge that when it gets to this point where they need to have a war that's going to allow themselves to move up, they have to create situations and instances in which people are drastically pit against each other. You know what I mean? But it doesn't change the fact that they don't have an exit strategy for any of the things that they're doing right now. So what that basically boils down to is that they're just kind of just throwing themselves into different situations and different altercations with people just to sort of maintain themselves and their fictitious society from going the way of the dodo, even though we know as conscious people that that's basically already happened. So all we kind of got to do is continue to do us and not get so bogged down in a lot of the mundanities that we wind up dealing with due to the fact that we don't have a lot of support in what it is we want, especially when you're kind of going it alone. There's an old proverb that says that, or the prophet is seen as the prophet, or a prophet knows he is such, but she is such when she is accepted in every home when he or she is accepted in every home except their own. And that kind of like puts it out there for all of us in that sense, you know what I mean? Because a lot of us in our rise into consciousness were ostracized by our family and were put in situations where the people were somewhat that we learned virtue and certain things from were put in situations where they could no longer represent that for us. So it wound up in situations where we or they started to not reflect what it is that they were, in a sense, spanking us and getting us to be about coming up. You know what I mean? So specifically speaking, I say all that to say that whenever one makes a choice to do certain things, you know that everything in this society, reality, is going to galvanize itself to throw you off of that concept. You'll also be beset by energy or entities that seek to usurp the power that you're trying to build before you build it. Because it's not about what you're doing. It's about, again, a lot of times what you're going to do and what it is you are put here to help inspire others to. So we never want to be in a state where we're so conscious that we don't do the knowledge to our common sense. And how our common sense is really there as the first line of your intuition. When we think of intuition, especially guys, it's a situation where we don't really pay attention to how what we do will affect somebody else, and yet we sometimes become so isolated and inundated with our own problems that we don't look outside to see basically most people are dealing with the same crap that we are. Yet it becomes subjective based upon different circumstances, environment, society, family, friends, social structure, status, all of these material things that basically reflect a certain position or standing in the world that left up or within itself is really strictly illusionary. Remember the story we used to sing as a kid, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. The boat that they talk about is the river, is the chariot, or the solar barge of Ra, and the strip, mommy. And then the stream and everything is exact opposite. You know what I mean? Just eat your food, man. You want more? So it got to the point. So we're now at the auspicious occasion or place in history or time that we can actually we can create a reality for ourselves by paying attention to the subtleties of our own personal nature, as well as rising above the part of ourselves that we feel is inhibiting us. And those things that we feel in those times, in those instances, are usually coming from sources that we were somewhat familiar with. You know what I mean? So everybody can, hypothesize what it was like to be an ancient Kemet, and we could talk about, what it was to be gods and goddesses and stuff, because really we're building on that from the perspective of people who are claiming to be the remnants of that people and those people, whatever, but for some reason have a very hard time, not only in the recollection, but in the implementation of bringing that divine energy into their place right now. You know what I'm saying? Into the standing and into the physical space that we all represent. So we know who and what we are aesthetically, but when it comes to being that, this is where a lot of things get lost in the translation. Because a lot of us, when we first get into this consciousness, we start to get in from a system or from a stance of negation. Now, negation in the metaphysical sense is actually a positive thing, because to negate everything in the physical is basically to raise up that which is not. Yet, we must always remember that we did still come here to have a human experience. So in that human experience, there's still wonderful things about this planet that we live on, man, that we will sometimes lose focus or sight of due to the fact we got to keep our head down and always protect ourselves from all other shit that's going on. But like I said, the end is not yet. You know what I mean? And as much as people want the end of the world, per se, that's not really what they want. When people talk about the end of the world, and they talk about the end of things, they're not talking about the end of the world, like the whole planet's going to stop spinning and blow up. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what the people who even use that in context is talking about. What they are talking about specifically is the end of Western civilization and its stranglehold on the natural time stream, or what they refer to, what a writer named Jose Arguelles refers to as the noosphere, Noosphere, the noosphere, which basically is the real time frame and time stream that exists simultaneously with this fake one that we're in right now. We can tell that this reality is fake because nothing in it is stable. It used to be, you would have people like our parents' generation, they would basically work a job, one job, for their entire life. Can you imagine it? Can you imagine what it's like to just stay in a state where you do the same thing for the entire time that you're there? Like, that may be hard for some of us in modern context to think of that due to the 7-second attention span of most quote-unquote Americans, especially American children, due to the instantaneous Happy Meal education that they tend to provide for everyone else in the world, the fast food academia that basically says it's not about me learning, it's about me passing the test. So what if the test is remembering what to forget and knowing what to remember? What if that's the test? You know what I'm saying? That's why we don't really retain information the same way we used to. Huh? So like I said, we're at this auspicious time where we could be creating what it is we want, and our dreams are working synonymous with our intent. Why else could you have in a time where they locking Moors up left and right, telling Moors that they ain't nationalized and that nationalized shit don't exist? How could they then, out of the other side of their mouth, come up with a Moorish American week or a situation in which now they have to acknowledge us and then get it popping in at least 7 different states? That's something that would have been unheard of 7 years ago. And the funny thing is that one of the first people to initiate it was Rahm Emanuel. Now, we know Rahm Emanuel is the bag man for Obama. He also is involved in Chicago politics, and everybody knows Chicago politics is the only political systems, municipality system that's more corrupt than the Chicago politics, the Chicago city board or whatever, is New York. You know what I'm saying? So, specifically speaking, for this Mossad dude to come in and make it happen, you know what I mean? It created a situation where I started to see that they started to see how all of this energy is starting to compound upon how it is we view ourselves. Not only how we view ourselves, but how we view the world around us specifically. So literally speaking, you know, right now is the best time when we can start to do the knowledge and start to understand that what it is we put out there is exactly what it is you're going to get back. But it's not going to come back in the same route that it took for you to send it. You dig? So they are now doing things, or certain things are being implemented in our society to give us hope, you know what I'm saying, but to also reveal some of the broken down or hidden history that they was talking about, or that our brothers and sisters may have lived through, but for whatever reason was never really shared with us. Case in point, the movie Red Tails that just came out, all black cast and everything, and George Lucas, who happens to be married to a black woman, helped put it out and promote it or whatever, and has been trying to make it for years. The problem was that nobody in Hollywood wants to co-sign an all-black film unless it's something in a minstrel phase. You know what I'm saying? Or unless it's something in a state in which it's like it's all cool if it's all black and you niggas are selling drugs to each other, killing each other, but you in a situation where you showing how courageous and directly pointed you are as human beings and men. We don't want to be that inspired. We don't want that type of inspiration from you black men anymore. We want the opposite. So I'm glad that somebody like George Lucas could go in and make it happen. And basically this is going to be the kind of measuring stick to see if they can start to do that again. The only other all-black movie I ever saw prior to the Oscar Marceau films in modern history was like The Wiz and Idlewild, the Outcast movie, man, which was a real deep movie, you know what I mean, and was one of the only movies one of the movies with Paula Patton, for some reason, whenever she plays a movie with a black man, she always dead or the black man always die in it, like when she did.
They want her to be dead with a black man in real life. With a white man.
True.
She's not supposed to be with a black man till in the dream, in the hereafter. Even with Denzel, she had to die.
Right. She was dead. Like, she was a dead body. Right. Just like in Idlewild, she was a dead body. And then Andre was obsessed and was about to kill himself to be with her. And then got it switched up. So I'm just doing the knowledge that this is really an aspect or an auspicious time in which they use us as placeholders for agendas.
All right, can people hear you? Are you even
All right, yeah, I think they hear me.
Yeah, they can hear you.
Yeah.
Is the sound good today?
It should be.
We finally tasting got a new phone.
Should be. Let me know, guys, in the chat. So they're dealing with that, and then they're also dealing with the fact that this is in contravention to the hidden memo that I had a copy of it a while ago, but I don't know what's that. But there was a memo that came out at the close of 2000 where the heads of all the studios agreed that they was going to only promote movies that in which black people, when black people would be in them, that they would not be basically together. It had to be a certain type of story in order for that to happen. And so the idea is there's always one black guy in a group of a bunch of white guys or white girls or whatever, and he's the one that's kind of like there with them. Then the other aspect of that.
That's much better, everybody said. The
awesome.
sound is good.
Awesome.
Perfect.
So, like I said, these are all little things that they do to kind of like throw it out there that the agenda is that we want you niggas to basically amalgamate more than be together. And we're going to create situations in which you don't want to be together. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not really the move. It's always the opposite. Because we have to understand that amalgamation to your enemy now is really a form of military application. It's also a form of colonization, or is being used as a form of colonization. Now, I know most original people who are in those type of relationships wouldn't see it like that, because to be in a relationship, there's a certain degree of justification that has to go down, and there has to be a certain degree of denial that has to go down as well. One thing I think that we need to keep it real with is the fact that a lot of black people look at Caucasian people as money or as a means to come up. You know what I'm saying? Now, this worldview, if you will, of these Caucasoids is basically and economically based. Now, I'm not saying that you as a black woman or a black woman can't love a white man if that's what you want to do. You love whoever the hell you want. I'm just saying, if you're hooking up with this dude and you believe that you was a slave and he believed that his ancestors used to own you, then you are entering into a relationship that is imbalanced off the rip. And you will always have to take the subordinate position in that relationship because technically you're still marrying your slave master. Now, we know that the whole slavery thing didn't happen the way that they always wanted to depict it or whatever, but it did happen like that to most black people. You know what I'm saying? I'm picking in terms of how they look at their history, how they look at themselves, how they understand who or what they are. They believe that shit. They believe Roots. They believe Alex Haley. You know what I'm saying? They believe that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? However, when you read the real, the true story on even Alex Haley with the Roots shit, like, it didn't happen like that. The way that he told that story, where he went to Africa and he went to the Cape of Good Hope and all of that other crap or whatever, he didn't, none of that happened. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't matter if it happened or not. If a bunch of people believe that it happened, then it did. And this is the type of reality that the adversary has created for people to believe in, a reality in which that something could not be true, but if enough people want it to be true, then it will. You know what I'm saying? Why is it that whenever you see these people in these interracial relationships and you walk past them or whatever, the white person will look at you, the Caucasian person that's in the relationship look at you, but the black person act like you ain't there? Or if they do acknowledge you, then it's an acknowledgement in which, like, they want to show you like they still down somehow, or like they, it's like those people who have locks. You know what it's like when you meet somebody or whatever, and they looking at your hair and they be like, start to go into how long they locks used to be and how they used to groom their locks and how they locks was this and that. And all the while, it's like, that's cool, but you don't got them now. So why is it now you talking to me about what my hair looked like or how long the locks is or whatever? Because there's a part of you that didn't want to cut it but may have cut it to label yourself or put yourself into one of them stereotypical reasons, like, oh, well, in order for me to keep my job, I had to cut my hair. You know how many jobs I work with these Caucasians with piercings in their face and tattoos on their eyebrows and piercings coming out their lips and all of that? You could look at the show, CSI, and see on the show how the forensic specialist is a suicide girl. For those people who don't know what a suicide girl is, suicide girl is one of these white girls that you see tattooed up with the pink bows in their hair and with the tattoos and the skulls with the barrettes and shit on it and with the thing, with the goth type chicks, but then they always naked, you know what I'm saying? Always like enticing a guy, acting like they're lesbians, but they're really not. So they've created a whole subculture called the suicide girl culture. And these suicide girls basically are, you know what I'm saying, a viable means. You got these chicks that's making millions of dollars off that shit. These girls, ain't nobody telling them to cut their hair. Ain't nobody telling them they can't get hired for that. These people coming in, their job look like straight demons. But again, it's okay for them, because what we don't want to accept sometimes is the fact that they have created a society that works for them. This dysfunctional society that they call Western civilization actually works for these people. They think that it's functional for them, and it is. Because whatever you want to say about the white man, whatever you want to say about the government, whatever you want to say about whatever, they are efficient. And, you know what I'm saying, you can't hate the play, you got to hate the game. Regardless of who or what, whether we like it or not, whether we agree with their government or not, whether we want to mess with it or not. If you mess with them people and you go to get a passport, you get one, right? You go to them people for your Social Security check or whatever, your check coming every month. You go there for your little unemployment, they try to fuck with you or whatever, but once you get it every month for 99 weeks straight. You understand? So there's still elements of this society that's functional that we are dependent on. And that when people start telling you, yo, we got to have our own and do this and do that, how can we do that when we don't even know how to think by ourselves without thinking about what the greater society is doing? Because we can't do that. Because to keep it real with you, our ancestors gave that up when they decided to become part of the American substrata. Thurgood Marshall and them. Separate but equal. That's the shit that got everybody, all of us, jacked up. Because prior to that, if we had money, we could keep our money and have to give them nothing. That's why there was two different states. To this day, they call two different Americas, one black, one white. One black, one white. So this is what's going on. You know what I mean? It's a universal understanding on the actual disillusionment of the outdated forms of society as we start catching up with the real. And the real society is the one that you create out of your own people and your own community and your own volition. It's not about what somebody else says that you should be doing. But unfortunately, a lot of us have not learned to isolate our own civilization, or what we perceive to be as a civilization, for our own, without taking into context how this is going to affect everybody else. Like I said one time before, like we doing the knowledge. You do the knowledge to it, you got to understand that how they look at it is that we here because we took them to court to be here. When Thurgood Marshall took these people to court and the separate but equal thing came down as a ruling that they had to follow, that opened up a situation in our community in which we had to now become beholden to them. You know what I'm saying? And now is the time, again, for us to really consolidate what we decide we want our culture and civilization to be. More so than just joining up with somebody because they look like they know what they're talking about. Or more so because they are in situations where they're making you feel beholden to them because they acting as your instructor, your imam, your rabbi, your leader, whatever that is. Like I said on the Alexis K. Tyler show, brother Coach Kai here show last night, only an infant people need a leader. You never hear of Chinese people talk about they follow, the leader or community activist or leader in the black community, leader of the black community. We don't have that. No other nation is dealing with that but us. And the people who could be supposed leaders in the community, luminaries in the community, all they want to do is make money with the white man. You know what I mean? Which, in a given state of the so-called greater black or so-called Asiatic community, sometimes you can't really blame them. Because how many times have you tried to solicit black businesses and been in certain instances where, it hasn't necessarily been on the up and up? Now, this is not just indicative to black people, but this is something that stereotypically has become expected from certain black businesses. But when you do the actual knowledge on it, when they talk about small business keeping America afloat, 49 to 51% of them businesses is small black businesses. Do the research. Go to the Chamber of Commerce. Get them to give you an active readout report of how much black small businesses produce and give to the greater national GDP. Exactly. They won't tell you that. Just like they've got a running lie. They've been running this lie since like 89. That there are more black men in jail than in college, man. How can that be, man? If that's the case, then who's graduating from Howard, man? Who's graduating from Stone? Where's all of these black IT people that's trying to take over Silicon Valley? Where they coming from? If they do it all like that, then what's the deal? Where's that coming from? And how is it that they still pumping the same lie since 89? If that's the case, then there'd be no black men in school. If we going by their average. I'm more trying to exercise the sovereignty and stay up. But no, because as free as it is to be sovereign, it also means that you have to have a certain degree of responsibility. And sometimes, like I said, with the negation, negation is a high metaphysical concept. Yet, on a basic level, on a layman tip, is really about what it is you choose to subscribe and give your energy to. Whatever you don't is a negation. So specifically speaking, like I said, we're at this auspicious time where we can use that negation as a means to implement different strategies to come up. Because every so-called ethnic group or whatever, has come up off of our backs. Like I remember growing up in the hood in FAP as well as FAP and whatever. FAP, Nostrand Avenue, respect everybody up there. And it was like you literally have to walk to the other side, you know what I'm saying, of the hood to meet this to see like a different form of life, like the brownstones and all of the rich shit and all of that. Now, they done moved, when I went back, they done moved into the building I was moving into. Because they know that wherever we at, they are not going to receive so much of the negative karma. Like, when white folk were living all out in the Midwest like that, they was getting hit with everything. Earthquakes, right? Flash floods, storms, tornadoes, twisters, typhoons, name it. You name it, they was getting it. Because what the government ain't telling them is that that's a way of forcing them to move. So at this time when we could be doing a lot, you know what I mean? And a lot of us are. I don't want to negate, if you will, anybody's progress or what anybody feels that they're doing, because I'm not here to do that. What I am here to do is to say that, we still got some shit to do. When I was coming up in the hood, man, I used to go into the bodega, and back then, the Arabs used to have pictures. They used to come to the hood, come to America, open up a bodega, make money from the bodega, send money back home. But then back then, they were going through the whole Beirut, Lebanon thing. So what would happen is that some of these dudes would come over here, do these CIA-run programs, open up bodegas in the hood, then go over there and fight for like 3 months, 4 months, come back to the hood, floss, work the bodega, go back home. But the way I knew this was because I would see these niggas back then, at least they used to come out, they used to take pictures of themselves holding AKs in front of the pyramids or doing whatever. So it would be like all these pictures taped up in the front showing them. I was like, damn, that's a big gun, that's a big thing. But also people in Brooklyn know when you go into them bodegas, there's always towards the back of the store, when you look up, like towards the ceiling to the back, you see like a little cubby hole with like a little opening. That's where them niggas would be in there training guns on us and shit, coming in, like making jokes and all of that. You know what I mean? Around, right kind of before, I would say around 1990, like right before Wu-Tang came out, all them pictures was gone. You know what I'm saying? You stop seeing them shit at the hood. So that's how the Arabs do it. The Italians or whatever, they would come up with the pizza spots in the hood, like, and do the right thing or whatever, as well as the construction, being the foremen and the contractors and all that. Make money off of us, pay brothers no money to work mad long hours, do shit, and then cut them off. And then cut it off, The Koreans and the Indians. The Indians produce the hair, right? And then they ship it through the Koreans. Koreans stock up the American stores. Now they're making all this money off the black women. Same thing with the nail salon. Same thing with any ethnic group, but we seem to be the only group that doesn't subscribe or support or pool our own money to come up, unless it's coming from a religious organization like a church or like a mosque. Same thing to Africans. They come over and they set up their own societies and all of that. A friend of mine told me that there's a CIA desk in almost every mosque, especially in the hood, places like that. But mosques that's specifically like from overseas, or they have an implant in there, because these are the modes of control and surveillance that they use through other people. So we live in this surveillance age in which everybody basically is an operative of something. And in a climate like that, it makes it very hard to trust. It's what it says in the Bible, that in the end times you would not know man from woman, you would not know right from left, or truth from the lie. You know, walking down the street, you see a beautiful woman, you know, you might not want to look too hard because it might not be a woman. You know what I'm saying? So it's like air exists where everything is sort of like in limbo. Everything is sort of like potentially something else. So in a time like that, all you can do is build up your own temple, in the temple, kingdom, soul of man, or Solomon, that will allow you to divine or discern what is truthful and fictional to you. You know what I'm saying? First, before you start giving, we give other people the benefit of the doubt more than we do ourselves sometimes. We'll doubt our own intuition, but then take into account what somebody else says as if that matters more. When really all we're looking to do in instances like that is to get a certain degree of validation, which is a confirmation of what we already know. That's why I don't take the arrogant position to say that I know it all, or will know it all, or have the right to be disrespectful or treat somebody who don't know like they less than me. Because really, what I'm doing is just helping us remember. You know what I mean? Stuff that you kind of locked away a long time ago just to kind of maintain and get money. Think about how many murders you have witnessed since the time that you was watching TV. Not even real ones, like fake ones. From the time you started watching TV to now, can you imagine? So specifically, everything is really based upon the perception or the perceived notion as to what it is we are participating in and with. So the less we participate in inane arguments and asinine dialogue, the more space we give ourselves to talk about and deal with real things. So as we approach, speaking of real things, as we approach this quote-unquote dreaded time that they have been doomsaying for us since I would say 85, because 1984 was supposed to be the end. Because remember, the book 1984, which was written in the past, was basically a allegory, just like Escape from New York. The movie allegedly happened in 1997. But you know, in 1997, what we was dealing with, that's when Clinton was president. You know, he was killing. That guy killed more African people when he was president than anybody else as president since. which is why ritualistically he had to be accepted as the black president. He was bombing medicine houses when they said that they had Obama. When the I think it was the Ghanaian government. Was it Ghana? I forget who it was. I think it was Sudan. No, Somalia. It was the Somalian government. They said they had them. They said you better let them go, or we're gonna attack you for harboring a terrorist. But it's like, I'm holding them for you. They're like, yeah, but you participated in terrorism. And they did. And then the so-called retaliation, which was another intelligence operation, was when they bombed that African American embassy. They build these things to blow them up. That's why, you got to be careful. Everybody also has been talking about the sounds, that people have been hearing all over the world, these giant, like, wailing kind of sounds. Mainstream media is calling it as a phenomenon. There was a guy on YouTube who basically recreated the sound on Pro Tools or something. But there was something a long time ago called the Kokomo or the Kokomo hum. And there was a place in Colorado, I think, called Kokomo, where the people were hearing this hum and it was starting to drive a lot of them crazy. Or they just couldn't go down. And when you listen to it, it's reminiscent of this sound as well. Well, what I was doing analysis to was, months ago, there was chatter about the underground bases being under attack, the ones that they've been building since the 50s. Also, as Selena says, Camera B, there is a site where you could go on and on buying one, because the government, to make money, is selling a lot of the old ones off, the ones that they wasn't able to really go in on. So you could buy them and refurbish them how you want. Some of these things is as big as Giant Stadium. You know what I mean? And they're going for kind of cheap, too. Like, I saw one for, like, 10 mil. That's like nothing. Or underground bunker, that's no money. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, you get something like that, you got to be able to work it and make it pliable, because you know they're not going to leave it in a type of manner where you're going to be able to just, like, move right in, You're going to have to fix it up. And who will have the time to fix it up in a situation like that? But in my opinion, what they are is what you're hearing, or what the people are hearing, is the ventilation systems, the hydraulics pushing out the residual blast fallout from the nuke the nukes that was dropped in it, in which causing the hydraulic system through the ventilation of the underground tunnels to let out the exhaust, which is then this comes out in such a force. It's almost like a rush of wind coming at you, like with the speed of like a volcano. Like you can imagine a volcano spewing out the same force that's coming out with this thing causing this sound. Because as it's coming out, that air is dense now because it has different nuclear and heavy chemical in it. So as it's rushing out, it's pushing the edge of the whatever container of the ventilation system that's coming out. So it's moving with such force that it's pushing the area that is coming out of to its limits, which is also adding on to the force, which then creates the sound. And because these tunnels go all over the planet, you understand? See, they only have the ability, according to the stuff that I've researched, like books on the hidden earth, research on Agartha, a book called Underground Cities by Barry Fell. Even when you look at the old manuscripts of the Qiang dynasty, they have a pictograph of the inner Earth where it's shown that there's a mantle. The upper mantle is kind of like what is under us. So most of the tunnels that they are dealing with are Del Familiar, but you have to understand these tunnels have been there for hundreds of years. So when people ask, well, you have an ancient society, where did these people go? They just seem like they just dropped their shit and just disappeared. Where they go? Some of them just went into these tunnels and walked to the other side of the planet. It's very possible. Not only possible, it's plausible, and it can be verified with GPS scanning. You can go online and look at them. You can rent a satellite and get it pointed wherever you want. So all you got to do is point it to the area where the sound was. It was even recorded at a baseball game when it first went off. Because it was the baseball game they were playing, the sound started coming through, echoing through the stadium. You know, the acoustics of the stadium is circular, so the energy is now popping up and then spiraling out. It's great. I hope that the ventilation systems have the ability to restrain nuclear fallout, because that would be really whack. You know? You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think is going on with that. And there's a lot of chatter about that on the net, as well as, but again, the mainstream media practices a form of journalism called yellow journalism. So in yellow journalism, you only present that which denotes fear, because fear in MK programming is amplified through the color yellow. So there was a TV show that used to come on called Millennium, and the guy who was a psychic, trauma-based victim who became a police officer, his name was Frank Black, the same guy who played the android in Aliens 2, Sigourney Weaver. This guy was Frank Black. Him and his family lived in the White House, and all he did was investigate satanic ritualistic murders and piece together how they were connected. But he begins to work for a secret group called the Millennium Group that's preparing to deal with the rapture that's coming in 2012. In 2000. Because back then, it was the Y2K 2000, everything was going to end shit. So this was the leading up to that. So I say all that to say he lived in a bright yellow house. You know? Yellow is one of the main things, because they've gone through different phases of the program. Because unfortunately, like, I don't necessarily enjoy talking about them like that, but to sometimes illustrate how and why they, or the system as it be, is structured the way it is, sometimes have to get into the historical nature of what they did to amplify why we are so important in it. So when you read the book Black Victims of Hitler, you'll see that a lot of the pogroms, which was the old name of the ghetto, basically his ghetto, were infatuated, enacted. They initially were the concentration camps that they were sending the affluent, Bavarian, rich, old school Moorish descendant people to. And then instead of killing them, they forcefully sterilized them. And the premise of this, the precept of this, why they felt that they could do this in these Hitler Youth programs, was based upon the eugenics manufacturing of sterilization and the promotion of that in the Old South by the United States government between the 1919 and I would say now, but they would officially say at the end of the Tuskegee experiment. Again, showing you through the movie Red Tails that the Tuskegee experiment was also had a broad stroke. It wasn't just about, so on one hand, they're trying to teach they're allowing black men to get back into the air through aviation and all that. But on the other hand, in the experiment, maybe it was they used the descendants of those black men or the contemporaries of those black men to then flip the experiments and stuff on. The same experiments that they just admitted that they was doing on people in Guatemala, and the same type of disease-based injection that Chavez said that they gave him after the earthquake in Venezuela, which is why he went to Cuba. Also, big up to my man, Mandem. He let me know that they're dealing with that, what we were saying last week, as they're gearing up for this war with Iran. We were saying how you got to look for higher gas prices, as well as the decommissioning of certain installations for potentially war facilities. So the homie called me and let me know that in the Virgin Islands, they're shutting down the biggest factory in the whole Virgin Islands, and they just did the shit like overnight. Like, now it's funny because on the news, he said he just found out, they just told him like 2 days ago or whatever. He said, but in the news I was watching, and they were talking about how in the Caribbean they were trying to find a way to make CARICOM more efficient. Now, for those people who are West Indian or whatever don't know what CARICOM is the American United Nations version of AFRICOM, which is the unified black force that would be set over to deal with black people. So you have, let's say, the Boule, right? And then let's say above and then under them you have, let's say, AFRICOM, which could, if necessary, be put into play as the military arm of them if they were ever to be placed in that type of position, which I would doubt because they don't like Boule or Archons to deal with international type stuff. They like to keep them more domestic. The only way they like to deal with international when it comes to us is when it comes to things like entertainment, things where they can kind of use in like an I Spy situation, if necessary, to promote a certain end, while at the same time promoting a certain image of us universally that is slanted to a caricature as opposed to who and what we really are. So the more of a minstrel you are, the more you can be on TV. You know what I'm saying? So this is to say you can't be in entertainment and have integrity. It's just if you want to do that type of entertainment, you can't really have it like that. So you could get in, but you could only get to a certain level. So the homosexuality that everybody's all crazy and hush-hush and all of that about is really just not so much about being homosexual, more than it's about control and the ability to dominate something and use then the secret as what they refer to in the craft as a forever lock. You have a soft lock, a hard lock, and a forever lock. So the soft lock is when you get somebody and they don't know that they're really getting information for you. The hard lock is when you get somebody based upon something they did and you reveal to them that now they either work for you or they go to jail. But then the forever lock is when you got them on something like a blackmail situation where you could pay them once, but then use the fact that you bribed them to always get them to do shit and not have to pay them no more money later. The secret is what's binding them. I watched this spy movie that came out that's supposed to be getting all these Oscars about MI6 called Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. And it's very slow and boring or whatever, but it's basically about the MI6 and a Russian mole that was placed in it from the beginning of it. And what happens in the transition from MI5 into MI6. So the head of the director in their world is called control. If it's a female, she's called M. And it's basically, so they also refer to the whole organization as the circus, whereas CIA refers to itself as the company. So when you look at how these people play, the whole idea of what they do, the difference in terms of how different intelligence agencies work, they work basically in a means of antagonistic attraction to each other, because essentially they're all one big organization at the very top. So at the very top, that's the ones that's totally possessed, dealing with all of the extra stuff. But they keep the subordinates in line through the ritual. And the ritual is the killing of Heru, or the killing of the king. So the king represents God. God then represents man who realizes God. God is also then the original man, who is the archetype in the physical manifestation. This because he and she were the original that formed everybody else. So because this is agreed upon, this should not be an issue. Therefore, by the time history got to them, all they could do was inherit or take over what was left over from us due to our indiscretion and intermittent conflict. Starting from three 3114 BC. So as we reach the climax or the crescendo of this time stream, we are now being shown the alternate realities of the things that are potential realities to come based upon our perceptions of them. Our perceptions of them then deem what we seem necessary enough to actualize our movement into action. This action is amplified by the intent, which produces the magic, which is the impossible feat that we do. A black woman could be on the phone, making dinner, calling somebody on the other phone, opening the door for somebody, feeding the baby, making sure the bath is up, all at the same time. White woman hired a black nanny to do that, or the Mexican nanny to do that, or the black West Indian nanny to do that, or the Korean nanny to do that. Then when the child gets to be 12 or 13 and realize that the father ain't never spent no time with them, but they got all the money, they're totally unable to deal with that, because at 8 years old, their hypothalamus shuts down, which limits the ability of emotion that they are able to process. But they created a lie that everybody is the same genetically, so that way if you say you're different, you are then some sort of mutation, meaning us. But the mutation is what makes you fool, which is why X-Men make $100 billion a year. Wolverine alone, $8 million a year in licensing. Wolverine alone. Wolverine is in like 12 different books, doing the same damn thing in every book. And they selling them books at $3 or $5 a pop. In a recession, in a depression. You understand? Because in a depression, people spend more money. In a recession, people spend more money. It's the opposite of what they say. Because economics is a con of the ecosystem. It's a mankind-made hybrid of the natural order. It is the cloning of reality in the form of symbolism and imagery projection, which creates the literal understanding within the subject, and the subject then goes out and creates. The need for the product is made before the product is put out, if you want the product to sell. But longevity of the product is based upon the individual that is creating the product. So once the corporation gets into the product, the corporation is a dead entity. So it would be like driving in a car with a cadaver in it. Like you in a Porsche, but you're riding around with a dead body. You know what I'm saying? It's structurally not consistent with the reality you are trying to create. Yet most of the shit that we want, we don't need. Most of the shit we need, we don't want. And that is not the white man or society now. That's us. So once we create the boundary in which we end and they begin, or we begin and end and they girdle the outside of that, we then can start to divine within ourselves how to process what we want to be, believe, know, see, have faith in, whatever. But to do that, we would have to do that with just us. But we, well, not all of us, but a lot of us wish to include others into it who have the opposite agenda when it comes to this. And so this information is a key to allowing this to perpetuate in the ecosystem, which then pollutes the economy. And that gel for a minute. Let's get into a call. I see somebody with their hand up. 614. No Super Heru Radio.
Hello?
Peace.
Yeah, Bahubat, listen, brother, I wanted to ask you, you know what I'm saying, I wanted to make a comment, but I wanted to ask you about the number 38 or the reciprocal 83 in this new show coming out called I forgot the name of the show. It was supposed to be about an autistic little boy that sees numbers and so forth and able to see the future.
Mm-hmm.
With your boy Jack Bauer.
Where he's in it?
Yeah, it's on the Fox.
He's a supplement, yeah. And it's called what?
It's called the trusted, not the gifted, but the trusted or something. But you know what I'm saying, he can't communicate with his little boy, and he's thought to be, he thinks the boy to be autistic.
Like autistic.
But
he thinks the boy's like autistic or something.
Yeah, he's supposed, he thought the boy to be autistic, but it's a black man, Danny Glover, right, who's a scientist. You know what I'm saying?
Yakub. Yakub.
Right. And the number that he sees is, the number that, he's working from is 318. And this number is so prolific to me because the number, 83, I seen, way back in, back in the 70s, back in the late 70s, I was shooting pool with my grandfather, and I said to him, 853 is going to come out, right? My grandfather went and played 50 Cent box on or something like that. But 83, it's been recurring, in my thoughts, or 38. And I see it, you know what I'm saying, in a lot of movies, you know what I'm saying, because, you know what I'm saying, they tell the truth in the movies and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so I was wanting to know if you knew anything or, you know, 83 or 38, you know what I'm saying, that was my first question.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great question, brother. 38 is the atomic number of strontium. Strontium is the chemical that, right, but it's also a chemical that is in the chemtrails that they have been spraying for all of the years that is able to become dense and allow for images to be projected on them.
Right.
It's also the rampart or the you know when you see a castle and then you see like the wall around the castle and then on the wall you see like these big stone like turrets. They're like stones that are like in front of them and go all the way up to the top of the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are ramp. That's what 38 represents as well. It also represents green, like things that are like fresh, like moist. Also, it's also interesting because you said 385, right?
Yeah, 853, 385. All different variations.
Yeah, it's a combination. Any number sequence combinations that you get usually correspond to some sort of time space continuum. And a specific number in which probably you either entered or not necessarily in this lifetime, but a lifetime, let's say, before that. So let's say at 338, that may have been the time that your genetic imprint came into being at a certain period in 338, which would be March 1938.
Right. And he said, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
he said, you know what I'm saying? He said, you know what I'm saying, 318, you know what I'm saying? It said on the show. It come on next Tuesday. But he said on the show, what's that date? March 18th. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. See? Look at that. Also, 318 represents the square, or the Maruba in Hebrew. In Hebrew, it represents the square, actually. So that makes sense, too, the square being, the reality, and then us being the circle in the square, being true representation of reality.
Mm-hmm. What about like 390-degree angles?
Well, those
but that's where that'd be two. Okay.
Well, if you have 3 90-degree angles, you'll have that's basically a half. That's basically that's basically 3 quadrants. 3 90-degree angle in the form of like a circle would be called a quadrant. So if you got 3 of them, you got 4, based upon the volume of the space that would be absent amongst the 3 when you line them up. You know what I mean? Almost like a finger at 9 o'clock.
You brought some light. Yeah. You brought some light to it, and I'm look into that. The second question was, I had emailed you, but I was asking, you know what I'm saying, you were speaking about, you know what I'm saying, I was looking on YouTube, you were speaking about the colander or the collider, you know what I'm saying, which is separation of particles, and that the, evil ones had went into, you know what I'm saying, a different dimension, you know what I'm saying, and was asking if they could come there. And, they told them they didn't want them there. So, you know what I'm saying, I start piecing together, you know what I'm saying, I watched Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And you see hip to that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that, it was deep in the, huh?
That's with the Zeppelin. That was the type of genre that stuff is, like, you know, how white folk always break shit up. Like that
Right.
whole, like, dirty, streamlined, big blimp, you know, aviation type shit, they call that steampunk. Whenever they have, like, clocks and, like, compasses and all that, they call that all that steampunk. So that's what that whole sky captain shit was. It was like, it's like a retro future reality that
Exactly.
they trying to create and get people to believe in. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So that way it could be an alternate future that they could, in the future, say that was real. You know what I mean?
Right. But you were saying that, you were saying that they also was talking, every time, like when I seen it on the Friends too, you know what I'm saying, they going into an alternate universe, or what you say, you know what I'm saying, they say, something they done made up. They got these, they got the air balloons, right? And there was a thing on his story, or the History Channel, you know what I'm saying, the Nazis and the Hindenburg, or the air balloons and whatnot.
Yeah. It's the Zeppelin. That's the Led Zeppelin.
That's it.
Was a play on the Hindenburg. The whole name of the group was a play on the Hindenburg because all the members of the group were British kids who, you know, descended from these Nazi niggas who got out.
Okay.
The Led Zeppelin, you know. But also, to add on to what you're saying, that whole period in which they're trying to evoke this heroic nature within it, and this like elements of the Age of Discovery when they used to make, when Edgar Rice Burroughs created Planet of the Apes. Tarzan, where, you know, the white man was in the jungle, the dark jungles of Africa, you know, amongst the cannibalistic black savages and all that type of shit. But again, all the jungles is in Central America. So jump forward now in history when they create Planet of the Apes. They make Charlton Heston dress up like Tarzan, which then evokes the memory of Tarzan amongst the apes who represent the Moors, the indigenous black people who are now ruling the world after they've collapsed the old Anglo-Saxon order. That's why when he saw the Statue of Liberty, he realized, like, oh, this is a future where I went to a time in my history where I don't exist no more, where all my people are slaves again. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, at one, you know, this is how they try to imprint the whole Neanderthal thing. Tell the truth with a lying tongue, you know?
Right. And my comment was like, you know what I'm saying, you had spoken, the brother Azazel had spoke about, you know what I'm saying, the dirty money and the dirty energy off of money. And I was building, I was like, you know what I'm saying, the black man is, you know, the black man or black people are represented in the money as the penny, you know what I'm saying? It take 100 of us to make $1. It take 1,000 of us to make $10. You know, and it's like, you know what I'm saying, we have no association with the money, you know what I'm saying? And you were saying that your boy El Gaddafi, you know what I'm saying, who I think, you know what I'm saying, brought off of some of that Moorish, you know what I'm saying, intellect, was trying to develop a central currency for Africa. He did.
Yeah.
And, you know what I'm saying, and they said we need, you know what I'm saying, we right, you know what I'm saying, we need to develop our own energy, you know what I'm saying, develop our own energy with the money, you know what I'm saying, you know, because no man could worship, you know, worship the Most High and Mammon, like it's saying in the Bible, you know.
Again, and the more whenever black men get together to try to do that, they shut you down, and that's when they try to come in like that, like with the whole shit. With the whole Jay Prince, and I use these rappers specifically sometimes for examples, but not to necessarily pinpoint them, because they don't really have no real power like that. You know what I'm saying? They'll front, but keep it real. When it comes down to it, the Jews telling you what to do, and if you don't do it the way they want to do it, get it done, then that's what it is. And even the handler, even the guy telling them what to do, let's say like a baby, you know, is applications for how these people are able to maintain the power they have. And it's all about give and take.
Hey,
for them to do something for themselves where they all get together to do that, like with the whole Irv Gotti, Jay Prince, you know, Suge Knight, whoever, when they was trying to get together, and then Dame
Right.
Dash came, and Jay-Z came and then shitted on all of that, and then informed on them, and then, you know, Pimp C, and then Tupac, and then Biggie, and these niggas wind up dead.
Right.
And then it's like,
Hey.
move up.
Hey, brother, one last thing. Can you build on that, this Blue Ivy, and whether Beyonce, you know what I'm saying, was pregnant or not? Because that's the whole freakish thing, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, the whole, you know, secrecy to it, you know what I'm saying? Like this last week she was supposed to be at the club, you know what I'm saying, partying or whatnot at Jay-Z's reopening, and, you know, what's good, you know?
Well, brother, you know, like all things, this is just what I am gleaning from what I'm doing the knowledge to, you know what I mean? And what I am know about, like when you know the signs of an illness, you know what the illness is. You know what I mean? When you know the shape of something, you know what that thing is. So when you see a certain consistent mode of behavior being played out by a bunch of different people who allegedly act like what they're doing is not somehow orchestrated, then you're dealing with people who are playing on our intelligence. You know what I'm saying? On some level. They're not
right.
entertaining. They're making fun of us at the same time. Like, everybody think about how much money you have seen thrown in your face by these rappers, and let's say take it out of their context, by American society in general. Think about all of the shows that's on TV right now that show the giant houses and shit that you won't be in, and that you will only see through these people who look like they who don't even appreciate that they're able to be in an environment to pay for something like that. So what this breeds in us is it doesn't breed entrepreneurship. It breeds envy, you know, and jealousy,
right.
and hoarding. You know what I'm saying? Like how many times we seen the TV show where they take us in their closet and they got over 5,000 shoes? You know how much of a sin that is? You know how much of a sin that is?
Yeah.
That's a day in hell. In the Bible, this is some Bible shit, medieval shit. That's a day on the rack. That's a year on the racks for every shoe. And I don't mean both shoes together. I mean like 1 year on the racks for this shoe, 1 year the left shoe, the right shoe. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
If it was really like that. But that is seen as success when that's just really like a hobby. You know what I mean? But in the end, what happens to all of those shoes? They what? The white man take them and do what with them? Put them for auction, right? And other rich white people buy them, and nobody in the community get to wear them shoes.
Right.
You dig? So essentially, people like this guy and his wife, in my opinion, are just people who have agreed to play both sides of the fence and then carve out a degree of rulership over people who worship them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you look at the pattern of his, let's say, relationships in the pattern of, let's say, look at it like a businessman, he was successful. But when you look at him in the comparison of relationship in terms of a man, he has no integrity. So that's not a man to me. Regards to what you eat and how you around, that's to me. But that's my opinion. You see what I'm saying? But I'm not going to turn my opinion into a judgment in this man and act like this nigga is the Illuminati. Like, this nigga don't have no power. I'm the one, the twins of Rashid was the one who did the tape. One of the first tapes after Black Dot dropped the book on this shit, where I was showing this nigga with the Secret Service. So niggas can tell me, but even then, I wasn't saying that this nigga is the devil. Like, no, I'm just saying this is what this person participates in. And if you want to protect your children, this is what you got to look out for. When this nigga say he licking shots, I used to think that meant that he was shooting at somebody. Now, that could mean something else. You see what I'm saying? Sexual. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to deal with. You dig what I mean? It's all how you look at it and in the perspective of age as you graduate into your understanding. So the whole ritual now, the Moonchild ritual with this Ivy character, because that's what they made it into already. This baby already is on track. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what's up. Like, that's dope on one level if they was conscious. You see what I'm saying? But on another level, you know they're not. So you know that voice now is the imprint that they'll take to the temple room and put through the master machine, and they get the 13 witches to do their little covenant shit on it. Whether we want to believe that that's what they do or not, that's what they say they do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this ritual now, when she was pregnant or not pregnant, all of that was one of the processes or the ritual that they call the harlot of Babylon. You know, that's where you get the queen or the queen of harlots, who is the queen of hearts, as well as the lady in red, right? Lady in red.
Right.
They all are the participants in the actual ritual. So a long time ago, the story is Parsons, Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard, Freda Ricard, and the other Hollywood was involved with the ritual, where they tried to invoke the energy of the harlot of Babylon in the world. And then once they already did this ritual, they then began to look for babies born with the trait of what that was to be. Therefore, when certain redheaded babies was born, like redheaded babies is preyed upon by other Caucasian people.
Right.
We don't know that.
By the blue blood.
Yeah. The white people prey on the redheads because the redheads is allegedly more psychic, more in tune with their hypothalamus, so they're able to like really have empathy and really grow. That's why Irish people, certain Irish people know that they come from Moors and shit like that. Or why Noble Joe Ali said Irish people who accept Islam could be called Celts. So in the process of creating this ritual, anytime you deal with in vitro fertilization, you're going to wind up with twins because they seed you up with mad babies. Octomom was the extreme, but everybody get them because most eggs don't take, because most eggs ain't real. The ones that take have a certain degree of genetic imprint or unreal material in them. Bio, ectoplasmic, whatever it is not necessarily human. Because it's germinated in a lab, it has nothing to do with, you're saying that they Frankenstein, all that. That's what they do. So anytime you got the egg and you taking it out the woman and you handling it and you injecting it and you putting it on a dish and you freezing it and you unfreezing it and you sticking it in her, that is an abomination according to things like the Bible, Islam, things like that. You see?
Right.
But we live in the real world where the Bible and Islam and stuff like that is used to make you feel guilty when you do shit like that, which then creates a certain reaction, which then creates another reaction and another cause, and then you lead down a certain path. That's why most strippers and most pimps and people like that kind of have the same experiences, because that is the time stream that was created for you to go into to alter your own divinity of knowledge of yourself. So archetypes, moon children, are created for people to idolize and feed off of, for them to exist. So Beyonce, if you notice, see, Selena kept it real. She told me the other day, she said, I think she flipped this whole ritual just to take the shine off of Kelly.
Wow.
Like, you're right. I was like, I said, you know what? You're right. That bitch is that vain. I think she's that vain.
I believe that too. You know what I'm saying? You know,
that's a judgment. What I just did right there, that's a judgment. But I think it's true.
Yeah.
But I don't hate her because of that, but I feel like she that vain where, because I've seen in the other videos she did, where Kelly was in at the end, she put the 2 fingers up behind her head and shit. I was like, oh, you whack. She whack, yo. She's a whack chick. And he's a whack dude because, again, they have no integrity. They'll do anything. It seems like they do anything. These white people got them like this.
I think she, you know what I'm saying? I think she was kind of salty also because that album ain't really, you know what I'm saying? That album wasn't really all the way hidden, especially, you know, the title cut on that cut or whatever and so forth.
Yeah.
So, you know, everybody be talking about, you know, it was, you know, a promotional stunt. We ain't seen this baby yet or whatever and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? It's wild style. You know what I'm saying?
It wasn't that good. I mean, she did the video where one time she did the video where she was playing the cop, right? She was playing the brother on the train to impress the white man. And then she did this new video where allegedly she's pregnant in real life, but in the video she takes place in the 50s. And she's dancing for some white private detective. The whole video is her, like, dancing for him, though. Again, always glorifying the opposite. And then it's in black and white to denote a aspect of surrealism.
Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? And they always, every time I see them together, man, every time you see them together, whatever, man, it always look like, you know what I'm saying, like they ain't together. You know what I'm saying?
Because the word is that some of them, when they get to that level and make certain deals, they got to be on a certain kind of offset shit with their relationship. For all we know, they got contracts with each other, which is what most of them do anyway, because all of them are being told what to do. Leo Cohen is telling this nigga what to do. Mossad, I mean, it's obvious. You know what I'm saying? Yet, it has nothing to do with the music. Yet it does when the music is being used as a military application and the images of these people is being used to show us this is how you make it. So you make it by being a drug dealer and stringing out thousands of people allegedly and screwing over your friends and not having no loyalty from where you come from, but then you act like you in the hood where you promote the building of arena that dispossesses thousands of people in the same city that you was in or used to live in. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then what they're going to do, they're going to do a concert. You're going to go there in that same stadium to inaugurate it ritually. Going to do a concert. And all them people who was dispossessed and all that going to go to that concert and party and act like it's all good. And that's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Where he at now, and it's always speaking Marcy, he could buy Marcy 3 times if he wants, allegedly, if you got money like that.
Right.
I'm saying,
but they ain't allowed to do nothing like that.
No. But guess what? Daddy Yankee went to Puerto Rico and bought a whole block and is buying another one and building them shits up. You know what I'm saying? They go Calderon going in Cuba doing shit. What's going on? But again, we can talk all of this because we ain't got the money. Let's see what happens when we get the money.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? Let's see what happens when we get the money. But even when we do, but at the same time, that's why I know we ain't got it yet. Because they know, son, it'd be a wrap. It'd be a wrap, man. Find jobs for everybody. Because that's what we supposed to do. And it's real easy. But to do it, we would have to do it, which means nobody that's not down with it couldn't be involved, which then makes it seem like it's secret, you see? And because they think it's the notion of society, you see? There's always going to be somebody like, oh, see, these niggas think they could do it. Like Selassie. Selassie came out one day and said, you know what? I think we need to have a national language, man. So we're going to get everybody to start speaking Ge'ez. And the warlords in the South and the North wasn't having it. They're like, oh, you trying to force us with a language to deal with these white people, which he was. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't change the fact that if they all had a language, if all the Ethiopians were speaking Ge'ez right now, I'm not saying that Amharic or anything is bad, but if they all had that national language, they would have never been finally conquered. You know? You know?
Yeah. That's deep. I mean, you know what I'm saying, but all Africans, you know what I'm saying, you know, with that Afrikaans shit, you know.
Yeah, man.
And that's basically just a military installation.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm thinking they're doing is trying to shut them factories down just in case they start to mess with Pakistan or Iran, so that way they could turn them into military bases. Either way, they're going to be opening them back up for people to work in them. Question is, will they be paying people or trying to force people into that? It's an island, so you can't just force people. You have to bring people in. Because the type of labor that they would need to be able to run those factories, they would have to be skilled people, which means that the people who live on the island would have to be sequestered from that in order for them to make it work.
Right.
That's what the martial law thing is about.
You know, but you know what I'm saying, you're right, bro. You know what I'm saying, and what I was saying, you know, one thing right, and exact, man, is this currency. You know that you know what I'm saying, that we need to build for ourselves. You know, either you know what I'm saying, your boy Farrakhan, man. You know what I'm saying. I mean, you know, he was talking with Momar. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Why come he ain't trying to kick it with the Chinese? We already know. You know what I'm saying. All state. You know, but you know,
you're right about that, brother. You're right about that, man.
What we gonna do, man? What's our move, yo?
My opinion is best to consolidate or commission a representative from everybody's group, and everybody agree to meet somewhere under the protection and the assumption of peace. You know what I'm saying? If I go to this, somebody's going to try to jump in my face and try to set me up or do whatever. There has to be an element, something to break through in order for everybody to feel like they can trust me. You know what I mean? It's like at one point when they was whipping the black man, it got to a point where people just couldn't stand around and watch this white man make this other black man whip this black man. It got to the point where people went and killed the white man and then killed the black man. Or killed the black man and then killed the white man. Either way, it got to a point where they saved the man that was getting whipped. So we are the man getting whipped. And we are also the people watching ourselves get whipped. And we are also the person whipping us on behalf of the white man. We also, at some points, are acting or are the white man. There are some points in the day where you have thoughts where we have to become so aware of ourselves, where we really check if what we're thinking is what we are thinking or what we are thinking based on what we are around and what we are being projected in the area that we're in. You got to do sometimes psychic checks on yourself during the day to make sure that you are the one thinking your thoughts. Because we was all abused traumatically in Western society in America as black people. All of us, even the people with money, especially the people with money. Because the real science is the more stupid you are, the higher up in government you will go. The higher up in society you go. The stupider you are, the more you mess up in government, the higher up you go. You understand? Same thing in society. Not the person with the talent who gets it. It's the person with the talent who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who gets it. So it's all about a hookup. But again, like Cat Williams said, they locking niggas up for hookup. They lock Martha Stewart up for hookup. For getting hooked up. They lock Little Kim up for not snitching on niggas.
Yeah. Right. They be talking about the, you know what I'm saying, the congressman in 60 Minutes, you know what I'm saying? about the lobbyists, you know what I'm saying, about the millions of dollars that the congressmen, you know what I'm saying, get on kickbacks to support, you know, corporations and whatnot.
Mhm.
You know,
yeah, there's a movie called Middlemen you can get with Kevin Spacey that goes into that. There's another one called, there's a movie called Casino Jack. That, you watch that movie, you see how the whole shit works. And the people that they was getting the money for was indigenous people. They was using indigenous natives' names to get lobbyist money to petition government to get them shit, and in the process not give the native people nothing. Jews.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Hey, and you know what, bro, man? It's, you know what I'm saying? It's a constant, you know what I'm saying? It's a constant, energetic move, man, to make sure that the black man has nothing, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, all this energy.
Not even his woman.
Huh?
Not even his child.
Right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she been given, you know what I'm saying? She been given, you know what she want. You know, but she not what she want, but you know what I'm saying, what she's made to want. You know, tattoos, Daisy Dukes, hooker boots. You know what I'm saying? And you know, and it's fake ass hair. You know. But you know, that's what she's been tricked into thinking that she wants.
All of those things are signs to the enemy that he can conquer her. That at some point, some black man is going to hurt her so much that she'll find him attractive. Because really, the problem is with black men with white women, the reason why I think brothers who get with white girls sometimes get with the real ugly ones is because they'll listen to them and they talk. And they comfort them. You know what I'm saying? Keep it real. They may not be the prettiest girl, but in that, the girl that's not the prettiest girl is the one that's willing to go all out. It's the pretty girls is the ones with the psychological problems.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
With
because
that.
for their whole life, since 12 years old, somebody been trying to have sex with them. Then from that point, they've been listening to other women tell them about men. You have girls that befriend other girls to break up their relationship. You have girls who will get with girls and then sleep with the girl's boyfriend and then have a baby with the boy, get pregnant, get another boyfriend, have the baby up on him, and then try to keep the secret and still be his girl's best friend. That's real. That's real.
Yeah.
That's really going on in our community.
Exactly.
Just like you got brothers that'll get a girl on here and then get another girl, right? And then because he don't want to hurt their feeling, or because he don't care, which is even worse, he act like they ain't together until one day they both want to bust together. until one day they both taking their babies to the same nursery, and then one day they realize that this baby is related. Like, this is the type of stuff that's still going on in 2012.
In 2012, man. Hey, but you know what?
Even though that's not
said that. Huh?
Even though that's not, you know, the real year. It's
right.
real. That's what it is
check
to
this
everybody
out, man.
else.
I was building on this time reciprocation, right, in decade form, right, where 2010 is really slid back to 2001.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In 1989, you know what I'm saying? Well, 1998 slid back to 1989. You know,
right.
And where we getting our children, like, you know what I'm saying, like for real, right, with the telekinetics or whatever, you know what I'm saying, our children ain't supposed to be, you know what I'm saying, sagging out there, you know, selling dope. No. That's a fad that's long since, man, supposed to have been dead, right? You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to be
like... They can't even come up with a new drug. They can't even come up with a new drug that everybody hooked on. They was trying, but they can't do it because there's too much information about what drugs do. So if you're doing drugs now, you're somebody who want to do drugs. So that's why nobody got no sympathy. And there's some people who are being forced on drugs, but these people are under forced mind control and are in human trafficking systems run by elements of clandestine services of whatever agency. It may not even be the United States. It may not even be humans. You don't even know. You don't even know who's back the badge to you. You don't even know if this cop that's in front of you is American, is a human, isn't a robot. You don't know. Is a demon that's willing to rip his face off and do some shit. You don't know. That's the whole system, and that's what they've created. They've created a perpetual limbo, a purgatory, that they can keep everything off balance for enough time to figure out where to go. Can't get into the inner earth. People is nuking them out of that. They can't turn on the Hadron Collider because there's too many black dark particles coming at them, forcing them out. They can't go into space because they can't really break the Van Allen belt. So
the man says they got to go on the pit, bro.
They got to use. They got to pull out the big guns. They got to go to Area 52. You hear everybody talk about Area 51 for years. You never hear them talk about Area 52. They got to go to Area 52 in New Jersey to make shit happen. And the shit they're doing out there is why Jersey's all the way it is. They turned the whole state into like a factory. And this is not necessarily, again, the people. This has nothing to do with the people. This is not even necessarily people in the government. This is people who think they're in the United States government and they're not. This is about people who think they're American and they're not. It's about people who think they're Negroes and thugs and homosexuals and worthless. These are people who believe these things because they're not. Because somebody has ritualistically programmed them instinctually. This is not like everybody that's born goes through a government checker program. But at the same time, it's not like it isn't, because we all go through, what, pre-K, kindergarten. Pre-K is when they're trying to figure out how bright we are. Kindergarten is where they see how we use our brightness in motion. So then, what, first grade is when we are basically at the stage where we're able to start to formulate things and make them real. So puzzles and things were necessary. So what do they do in Head Start? Take the puzzles out. So kids don't have blocks to build anymore. So the block, which is the symbolic representation in our world of the DNA lattice, is taken away from the child, so the child can't build it up. Because when the child is building the block up, it's building an aspect of its own lattice. Because when the child is born in the form it's going to be as an adult. So everything that it's doing, every reaching up is an element of it reaching to the higher aspect of itself that exists as what it's going to be while it's a baby. So that's why I say you have star deities that fly over this place. It's like, yo, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to lock it down and do all that shit. Oh, yeah? As soon as you get down here, you go through that womb of that black woman, that's a wrap. That's the only piece we'll probably ever really, really know. It's when we was inside of that black woman. And now they've taken that for people. They're making the black woman now have to just get major surgery, pull the baby out the stomach, because the womb is in some women is too corroded for them to come out. And that's real. That's really happening.
It's too corroded, you say?
Corroded. They said that the herpes, this is the CDC putting it out a week and a half ago, said that the herpes capital of the world is Atlanta, and that the C-section capital, this is leading to an increase of C-sections due to the fact that babies cannot pass through the vaginal canal. That's not Abdullah Dukatir saying that. That's the CDC saying that about you. So Send them the negative emails. Tell them to send you the statistics and see it. But you ain't really got to. Every other day, they're showing you a picture of some black woman on one of these shows trying to pin a baby on one of these black men, and then these black men doing some ritualistic happy dance that they're not getting this black woman pregnant. And black women is watching that. Black men is watching that. That's why it's still on. That is perpetuating an image of us in the world that is not succinct to who we want to be. But when we point it out, something wrong with us. We hating it.
Right.
We not letting a player play. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We not letting them get theirs. You know what I mean?
You know what? Also, you were saying something you said something about, you know what I'm saying, going back to, the economics and so forth. We spend, you know what I'm saying, we was innovators, you know what I'm saying? And like our children, like you said, they not innovating nothing, man. You know what I'm saying? We went from the B-boy, you know what I'm saying, you know, all into the whole rap thing and so forth. These children now, you know what I'm saying, they're not innovators, and we as a people have not become innovators. We never took off with the rims.
And the ones that are aren't getting enough light. Like there was a thing on the other day where a little black boy created some sort of hydraulic machine that everybody want to get. But the problem is, the first thing going to happen, NASA, one of these companies going to come in, give them scholarships, so now they got the rights to the shit. We don't have no infrastructure in place to be able to take this little boy and turn him into something real. 58% of all students that's graduating magna cum laude is going into finance. You got astrophysicists going into finance. You got rocket scientists going into finance. You got NASA scientists going into finance. You got contractors. You got lobbyists. These niggas going into finance. You understand what I'm saying? These niggas. That means that all of these studies, these things that the society needs to perpetuate itself. Give a damn if it's black or white. As American people, this is taking away their ability to produce something in the world. Reagan did away with that. Reagan broke down the entire infrastructure, and they look at that nigga like Ramses. That nigga could do no wrong. They killed Ray Charles. They killed Ray Charles to play Anubis to carry him into the underworld when they knew they was going to get rid of him. And this is how they run their society, but we don't have nothing in our community or society to deal with any of this. And to me, that's the issue. So,
right.
We really ran it out. I'm sorry, brother. We got to shut it down. It's almost.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, bro.
No, but it was great dealing with you. It was great speaking to you, brother. And please email me again, man.
All right. Peace and blessings, brother.
All right, my brother. Be safe. Yeah, everybody, please, if you want to holler at me at houseofl@hotmail.com, as well as you can check out www.Aseer, thedukeoftears.com, as well as www.sagaassad.com. Thank you, everybody, for the support. Peace to everyone who's listening, first-time listeners, last-time listeners, people who don't listen anymore, thank you for listening. And indeed, we'll definitely see you again next Monday. Be safe if you're going out, and definitely be aware of what's going on. Also, thank those people, and thank you again for the continued donation. It helps us work towards getting our literary works and things out to you, so you can see again and use as information as to empower yourself, as well as your family, as well as your community, your nation, your God, yourself. So with that, we say peace, and inshallah, we'll speak to you again.